Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Roumain. It's been more than half a decade since dating apps were invented. Now that the stigma of using them is gone, more people are turning to the internet to find love. Match Group, the dating conglomerate that owns Tinder and OkCupid, talked to 5,000 Americans in 2018 and found that 62% of them used a dating app and found more first dates on the internet than in any other way.
I'd suggest my main goal on every dating app I use isn't necessarily to date or find a boyfriend in the long run. Honestly, these apps are more social to me, and people put too much pressure on finding an answer or someone to fill whatever they think someone is going to fill in their life.
I see them as a positive thing because I think it's especially if you're working at the same job every day and maybe you don't like to go out, it's a great means to meet people. But I'm in the spectrum of beliefs that everything in life is organic, and like just by being yourself and doing things you love, you should meet the right person. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're good for some, and I think they're maybe not the right thing for others.
Honestly, the talking to the people that I would match with through text seemed very, I don't know, distant. And it was hard to read each other. I couldn't really get a good grasp on who they were. And I went on a couple dates with some people and I was very shocked to find out how they were in person compared to how they would text me through the app.
It's just an easier way to meet people. That way I don't have to go out to bars and have awkward conversations with people that may or may not be taken or interested or might be 22 and I don't know it. And instead I can see someone's age, what they do, what they're into, and see if we align.
I find like our ability to like swipe through people is, I don't know, it's tough. Like I hope I don't do that to people. I'm pretty sure that I do when I just walk around the street or maybe even within my own friend circles. I'm like, nah, not that person. So I feel like the judgment without like a real quality interaction of it is hard.
Apps have completely changed the dating culture, making it easier to meet more people and increasing a person's chances of finding a partner. Though many may be looking for their one and only through their swipes, others are using them in a more casual way, which may be misleading to those looking for true love. On Point's Lawson has more.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Let's introduce our guests. So today we're here with Kelli Miller, a psychotherapist, author, and relationship expert.
Hi.
Jenna, Ponaman, a dating relationship expert.
Hello.
Hello. And Kasey Carter, a therapist and class instructor at the Park Foundation.
Happy to be here. Hi.
Welcome, y'all. Thank you. And I want to first ask you all, about dating apps in the sense of how do you feel about them?
Wow. I know, exactly.
Oh, this is an interesting question. Why don't you tell us first, Kelli?
Sure. I just think it's a completely different culture now with the swiping, and it just feels like this grass is always greener effect. It's like, okay, here's one, but oh wait, who's better on the next one and the next one? So I think that's a little bit scary and dangerous.
Wow. And what do you think, Jenna?
I think there's a bit of pros and cons to it. I mean, like she just mentioned, it really broadens the spectrum for what's possible for people. So, the dating world is no longer about what's just in your community. It literally is an infinite amount of possibilities. So that's really great. It promotes interracial marriages and couples, and it's really a place where people can feel a little more courageous in what kind of person they want to be or how to express themselves. So that's really great. On the flip side, we have this catch-22 effect now where people think, well, I can be so brave, I can also be so frivolous. And I don't have to commit to anything if I don't want to. It's really no different than flipping through a magazine, shopping for a shirt. So does it make more opportunity? Yes, but does it also complicate things in terms of are people really ready for commitment? It can be.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us your opinion on dating apps?
So the things that we're noticing and that I'm picking up on especially is that people are kind of a little bit confused about how to present themselves. And so we have a lot of, that term catfish and other things. People have a confidence where they are like, I can put myself out there, but they're not necessarily putting out themselves. They may not be asking the right questions and thinking that they're giving, the right answers to attract a certain type of fish. And so there's a lot of ethics and issues that we are seeing at my agency with the clients and the issues that we're coming up with at the Park Foundation. So that's been kind of my perspective on that.
All right, Jenna, do you have any clients that you feel frequently use dating apps? Or do you know?
Yes, absolutely. All in all, I encourage my clients to use apps. And not necessarily to say they're going to find their person on an app, but as I mentioned earlier, it gives them kind of that freedom to explore what they want, to really get clarity on what kind of person they want to be with, and to maybe even have a little research on what kind of person they might attract based on how they might present themselves. So long story short, I love to see clients on online dating, at the very least, just to get a sense of what is it they're really looking for.
Well, Kasey, I'm going to ask you the same question. As a therapist, do you have any clients that are...
Oh, they all are doing it, even if I tell them not to. But kind of what she touched on, I've been trying to use it as an instructive tool, more of like, so do you know how you come across? If I was a prospective suitor and I see your profile, this is what I'm going to think of you based on the way that you're presenting yourself. And people think that they know what that is, but a lot of times we don't look in the mirror and see very clearly. And so until we get feedback and know, which is hard to do online, we think that, hey, I'm putting out this great idea, I'm all that in a bag of chips, and then we're not necessarily getting the feedback that we want, which is what most of my clients are experiencing is, well, I think I'm great, I made a good profile, I had the right angle in my selfie, like what's going on? And they have no idea that the way that they expressed, their caption was the thing that threw everything off.
Well, Kelli, I'm going to have to ask you the same question just to see, get a gauge.
Yeah, well, I've noticed the same thing as Kasey, where I think a lot of my clients kind of, maybe think that they're presenting a certain way. But so I always advise my clients, like, have a friend take a look at your profile too, and just kind of get their feedback as well. And I think also, I'm all about honesty and authenticity, and so I have some clients who will put up photos from like 10 years ago. Like, no, it's not going to work, because then you're setting yourself up. So I'm all about just being honest, being upfront. If you have kids, say you have kids. Don't like hide it, or obviously you may fib a little bit about the age, but don't go 10 years, or because I just feel like that's just setting up something wrong there. So yeah.
So what's the most common issue or most common relationship issue that you've had with some of your clients?
Sure. So probably infidelity is number one. Yeah, I have a lot of couples who come in who obviously, one partner cheats, and so it's kind of like, can we salvage this? Can this work? So my goal is just to help them kind of come back together and figure it out. Because usually if couples are coming to me, they do want to try to work it out. But it's hard. The trust is broken, and so it's rebuilding that.
Kasey, do you have the same common issues with your clients when it comes to relationships and dating apps?
Most of what they're telling me is that, they're not finding the one, or they say, I keep getting all the losers. So I'm like, well, what are you putting out there that's making losers think that they can get with you, essentially? And kind of what I touched on earlier is that people are still not building their relationship skills. Like, people aren't asking the right questions before they even express their interest. Like, do you know what their values are from their dating profile? Probably not. Do you know how they treat a waiter or a waitress? Because that shows you a lot about their character. No, but you do know that they like hiking and they do yoga and they're also trying to be a vegan and they love their dog. Great, but that doesn't really help you have a relationship that's healthy and fulfilling. So a lot of the ones that do meet online, they'll say, oh, I have a lot of fun, and then there's no substance, or they fight about really big topics like,
really big things that I don't want to say, but you know, maybe like big issues that are related to values and morals that you don't really necessarily put in your profile on Tinder.
One thing I want to add too is that I'll tell my clients, have a phone conversation before you go out, because I think that says a lot too. Of, you know, the more, I mean, face-to-face is obviously preferable, but even just having that connection of like, okay, hearing somebody's voice, how's the conversation going? Are you picking up any red flags?
Are they literate?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Really, right?
And, you know, I think we probably all have seen too with our clients, anything with online dating, you know, people are trying to put their best foot forward, right? So they might, like you said, hide a little bit about their age, shave off a couple of years. They might exaggerate a couple of details about themselves. Maybe they're really active, but they're not actually that active. And so when they bring someone in, knowing in the back of their minds that they might have exaggerated some details, hoping to hook their ideal partner in, it's really not showing their authentic self. So now they put it off and they just try to filter and communicate online as much as possible to weed through. Or if they see a red flag, they maybe turn it to green because they have some things they're kind of hiding in the closet, hoping eventually it's just going to blow over and they'll figure it out and be fine. But the magic really, as much as online dating is sort of the starting and the tipping point, ultimately a relationship is about coming together. So we want to get on the phone to really hear that person's voice, or we want to get in person as fast as we can so we can really get into the substance of what this relationship could potentially be.
And on that note, what role do you all feel that dating apps play in our community? I mean, especially since
Pass the time.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
time.
tell us more about that.
I was just even recently I was traveling and like the people are just sitting there like flipping through people, like you said, like just they're online shopping, they're like shopping for, you know, wifey, and I'm like, what? How does this help you? How can you know someone's value in 10 seconds or less? Even if someone was really not a good fit for me, it would take me more than 10 seconds to evaluate that with a swipe. My thumb does not have a good character value, you know, measure within it. It's pretty impulsive, you know. So, that's what I think about that. So.
What do you think, Kelli?
I agree. There's definitely an entertainment factor, for sure. I mean, I think, sadly, it is the way that people are dating, though. So I feel like, I mean, you know, long gone are the days of like meeting in libraries and bars. I mean, even I think a lot more people are doing it. So I think we just have to find ways to do it where it's healthy and safe and authentic.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are some of the pitfalls for dating apps?
We've kind of touched on them, sort of this frivolity of it, you know, this idea of I'm impenetrable now because I'm online and sort of hiding behind the veil of online dating. So I can flip through and sort of reject people by swiping the other way. Or if I'm in another town, I can connect with somebody on Tinder or whatever dating app they're using. I can go meet them and do whatever I want for that short period of time and be on my way and forget they ever existed. So as I mentioned earlier, this really does kind of create this false identity of what commitment is, of what it really means to be in a relationship. Whether or not someone wants to be in a relationship. It's sort of this gray area of unknown, of really seeking out, you know, what does commitment look like moving forward? Is it marriage? Is it just having kids together? You know, what is it? People kind of, if they're just in that mode, they don't seem to want to figure that out. They just sort of stick
There's
to
not much
this.
depth either. I think that would be the biggest pitfall that most of my clients and people that attend our relationship skills classes are saying is like, you know, we have so much fun together and then it gets quiet.
Right.
Because we don't know anything about each other. We know what we like, we know our interests, but we don't know, like, did we both grow up as the oldest child and that's why we both like being the boss? Did we both, you know, grow up with manners? When do we ever talk about how we were raised when someone slides into your DM? You know, you don't. You say, hey, what's so great about you? Why should I, you know, spend my time on you? And hey, what's so great about you? Why should I spend my time on you? And you're not getting to find out the value of a person.
Right. It sort of almost feels and sounds like a sexual transaction more than
Like a business
dating,
transaction.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's my proposal of what I'm going to offer you, and here's what you're going to offer me. Thank you, we're done. But there's to actually get down into the nitty gritty of the substance of, you know, what makes you you? What about you makes you tick? What makes you triggered? Show me your vulnerability. You know, that's really the substance that people don't know how to approach anymore. And if they do, it takes them much longer to get there. Or if they're in their honeymoon phase and they do kind of go into something, they just sort of do that after the relationship has already gotten to a certain point, right? You know, sort of back to the essence of commitment. They might be in a relationship after dating online, but they do all that fun stuff together, right? They hang out, they go to the movies, they maybe socialize with their friends, right? But to actually now, like, let's talk about your family and talk about those things that maybe, you know, put your walls up, like to bring them down is really, really difficult.
A lot of my clients have expressed that dating apps have given them more anxiety than actually alleviating any of their relationship issues. And now, like, the people that are like, oh, let me go set up a profile that's paid, because then that's where, like, the serious people are going to be. Nope, there are still people that don't have substance that pay for prescriptions, you know, like up on there. So it doesn't matter. Just because you're paying for a higher quality doesn't mean it's going to be better quality people either.
I think we have to teach our clients to weed out the appropriate people and ask those questions that you were talking about, of really getting into those deep questions so that we can find out those answers sooner rather than later.
Right. And I do also encourage people to take a pause from online dating. Not stop it per se, but take a break, because it is very exhausting and trying, and we do fall into that kind of false sense of I need to really hide who I am and convince someone, right? Pitch to them rather than showing them who I really am. So taking that break, you know, getting back out into real life, don't even date for a while, just go do things that make you happy so you can really find out more about yourself to say, okay, this is how I really want to experience myself when I am dating online and finding a person. So that way, when you are online, in how you write your profile and how you communicate with someone, you really are putting your true foot forward, your authentic self, and not feeling like you need to hide it.
That leads me to another question, Jenna. Do you think the apps have made us more insecure or more secure in that sense? I mean, when we talk about reaching out and actually being authentic.
Again, catch-22, I'm going to say that. Because I think in theory, people think I can say whatever I want, be whoever I want. And in that light, it can be very freeing. But when you start to get the attention, then the kind of fear flag, I'll say, sort of starts to wave for a person going, oh, I got someone, they want me. Oh my gosh, I really want them to like me. And all of that starts to percolate. And when that starts to happen, then they might start to pivot a little, like, well, maybe if I come off less aggressive or start to take an interest as an athlete because this person's an athlete. You know, those things start to fly. But rather than just pump the brakes and just remind ourselves, hey, I can be whoever I want here, but that means I can be me. And if that person doesn't like it, next.
And I think we don't have the confidence to do that, you know, to like say, hey, it's okay if you don't like me back.
Right.
We're just trying to get as much like confirmation of our value. Like, well, you know, like whatever those apps are when you can, if you both like each other, then that's when the link actually happens.
Right.
And so people are thinking, you know, wow, I have so many links, so many people are picking up what I'm putting down. Fantastic. But then again, it's like you have to know who you are, like you were saying. You need to be really sure about who you are. And if you really are confident about that and you're putting yourself out there in that way, sure, great. You can be confident, secure. You can take a rejection. You can take a swipe left. You can handle it. But if you're not being your true self and you're putting out this false identity and it's still not giving you success, then you start questioning like, wait, well, what is great about
the ghosting culture makes it really tough, and that answers your question about, I think a lot of people are more insecure because they're forming these connections with people and then it's just like poof, it's gone. So I think that's a big piece of it too.
Right. And I wonder if, and maybe this is kind of now on the outskirts of online dating, but in terms of really getting comfortable in someone's identity with dating, you know, many of us are attached to more of the traditional form of what it means to date, which is, for women especially, we kind of attach ourselves to one person at a time, whereas men will be a little more open to kind of dating multiple at a time. As a coach, I encourage men and women to date more, multiple. And that could be whatever they interpret it to be. But the reason for this is when we isolate to one person, we do get attached a lot faster and a lot more on that superficial plane. Whereas if you have other options, you feel a little more free to say, well, if there's a few things I don't like about this, then that's okay, because I can do more research with these other people. I still have other options. So that's, I think, a big thing with the online dating potential, that they shouldn't, just because one person matches with them, yes, that means you have similarities, and there's algorithms and things with online dating where that, kind of emphasizes that, and that's great. But I would still encourage someone to say, continue to filter through. Even if you match with 10 to 20 people and you message them all in the week, great. Pick one of them, go on a date with one, then go pick another one and go do that later.
It's like a full-time job.
It can be. It can be.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, a lot.
And I think also with online dating, we also think, all right, I made my profile. It has all my interests. It has all my best pictures. There's everything you need to know. Pick me. And then, someone's picked me, they messaged me, fantastic. And then, like you said, I got ghosted. And then they start to question and doubt, well, what about me is ghostable?
Right. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me? How come I couldn't keep them interested?
Yeah.
Is it because of the pictures? Because you don't have any feedback. You have no idea. You don't have a
Exactly.
facial expression to even read, like, oh, your breath was bad. I can tell because your face was like, But online, you have no idea. They don't even have a read receipt. You don't even know if they read your message.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
would drive me insane. And so then you start questioning yourself, like, well, what did I do wrong? What am I lacking? Rather than, maybe that person just wasn't,
Sure, or they didn't read it.
Yeah. We always default to, I must have done something wrong, even though they stopped talking to me.
Right. Yep.
Even though there can be 50 plus reasons, they may have met someone else, or maybe they just got tired of dating and stopped. Maybe they were uninterested, or maybe they freaked out. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
Hey, Kelli, this is a two-part question to kind
Okay.
of transition. Do you have customers that do not use dating apps?
Sure.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So the second part of this question is, do you see a difference in the clients that use apps versus the ones that don't?
It's a great question. Yes, I think that people who don't use it typically tend to be a little bit more private, a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more fearful about what can happen if they do this. Or have had bad experiences and kind of swore off the apps forever. But yeah, I definitely, there are two camps, sort of the kind of private, like I want to just meet somebody the traditional way, and kind of typically I have found the people who use the apps are a little bit more open and kind of progressive. Yeah. So that's what I see, yeah.
Wow. Do you want to chime in on this, Jenna?
Yes, I want to chime on this. Yes, same thing. I have people that have used it, have not used it. For the same reasons, if they are not on apps, they might have a little more traditional beliefs in terms of how they view the world of dating. They prefer to meet people that are familiar to them, so maybe in their close circuit, through a friend, because it's maybe a level of built-in trust already established. They might feel online dating is superficial, right? And they don't believe they can really get what they want from that. I would never encourage someone to do something they don't want to do, because if they're not comfortable with online dating, it's going to show, it's going to resonate, and at the end of the day, they won't get the results they want if they're not really putting that best foot forward.
Like Kelli, I think that most of the divide that I'm seeing is kind of more of the progressive, open-minded, but also time-conscious people are the ones that are more gravitating towards the apps, whereas I have, my older couples, or even middle age, that are kind of like, I'd rather take my time because I don't want to waste time. I'm over 30, or I'm over 40, I'm over 50. And I would really just like to have a meaningful, intimate conversation. And I think that also is because of the age, where they might be more secure in themselves, and they're like, I know what I am, I know what I want, I know what I can or cannot attract. And so I'm going to go make that happen. Whereas a little bit younger, more open, more time-conscious people are like, look, I need to find a match. I need to find that spark, that chemistry, that ooh, wow, ooh, and then we can take off the ground running.
I think it's that instant gratification too of the millennials. It's like they're so used to getting things so quickly that it's like,
It's just
I just want
American
this
culture too. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
It's like, hey, you put out one ad and boom, everyone replies. That's how it's supposed to be, right?
Right. Well, also, we live in the city of LA. It's one of the biggest cities in the country, right? And it almost feels like we're this small fish in a big pond for some people that prefer not to date. It's almost like, where do you go to date these days? Where do you go to meet people? Bars seem like that's not a possibility anymore because everybody is on their phone. Maybe, there's no real connection happening.
And there aren't real people, like single people that are out in public alone, just sitting at a bar with, that don't have like a record or a reason that they're sitting alone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
and I think this is all perpetuated. It's like the full circle of now, our world is online, that we don't know how to establish a connection in person anymore. So really learning how to just initiate, to say, hi, my name is so-and-so, it's nice to meet you. What is it like to flirt these days in person, right? Because now we can spend hours thinking about some smart, clever, flirty remark, right? Or a story in emoji, which is another long conversation. I can do that, or I can redraft it over and over again when I initiate with you, and if you don't respond, I'll just pretend you never read it. Whereas you're in person, you can reject me, and that is terrifying.
And I do worry about all the emojis and over text, because I do feel like we're missing that. Like, you can't read somebody's face, you don't know what they're thinking. Talk about insecurity. It's like, wait, did he mean that? Was he being sarcastic? Like, what
kind of stick out tongue does that mean?
Right. Yes,
is he flirting? Is he rude? Like, what is that?
Yes, exactly.
How do you
It's very,
interpret
it's
body
very
language?
tough. Yeah, to figure that out.
Ladies, I have one last question.
Great.
And this one I'm going to choose to ask you for one word that would sum it up, okay? The question is, what kind of advice or what one word advice would you give, or one statement advice would you give to someone who is looking for love by the swipe?
I think for me, it's really stating clearly that you want a long-term serious relationship, and really picking up the clues right away. If somebody's asking you to hang out, after 9-10 o'clock, okay, there's a red flag. So really honing in on that and recognizing, like, okay, this person doesn't seem like they want long-term. So I think making it very clear, and then also just really watching those red flags and not compromising.
Jenna?
The number one statement I tell all my clients is, love starts with you. So before you can really enjoy and embrace affection and love from another person, you really have to experience that within yourself. Because we talk about self-love and self-care, but to actually walk that talk really takes courage, and it really takes constant work, especially in the dating world. So.
And Kasey?
I think that I would kind of, including what they said, because it was pretty great. I'm sorry I'm last. But, just if you are wanting someone to choose you, be willing to choose yourself and to put yourself out there. You're choosable, and show that. Someone will pick you if you're you, and you don't want to be chosen for something that you're not and then have to live a fake life.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. It was such a great conversation.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us on KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can watch us on Santa Clarita Valley Television on Sundays at 5 and on LA 36 at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoons. For On Point, I'm Emmanuel Roumain.